Thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone. It's really good to be with you, and it's really powerful to get to close this year together. Um, with that said, I'm thinking a lot about memory. Whether or not there's holidays that we celebrate at this time of year, I do think that with the Gregorian New Year and um, I'm seeing to be louder. I'll try to be louder. With the Gregorian New Year and Thanksgiving having just passed and Hanukkah, there's a lot of milestones in the year that can put us into the mode of memory since the years stack on each other. And there's a day like the Gregorian New Year that we can look back and maybe remember where we were in years past. And memory is a pretty powerful thing, and especially in our tradition. Um, One of the ways that I've been thinking about this that I wanted to talk about and practice with today is sometimes I feel like, particularly in my mindfulness practice, I won't speak for everyone, but I do feel sometimes like I'm striving to actually be something that I'm not. And what I mean is that when I think about the Hebrew language, the word for our people before the Israelites is the Ivrim, Ivrim, like the language Ivrit, Hebrew. And when we put this word of Ivrim into a noun, avar, it means past. The past is the past tense. And I think that just that alone is something very humbling. If we think about a way that we are called as people, as also reckoning that we are people sort of with minds in the past. And the entity that is of the presence is God. God, Yud He Vav He, those are the letters that make up the word to be, lihyot. And really, it's the only way of saying absolute presence. When the unpronounceable four-letter name of God is the only way of saying absolute presence in our language. And I feel sometimes in my mindfulness practice like I'm trying to convince myself that actually I could be in absolute presence, when the truth is I am Ivrim. I am a person, I'm a passing person. I'm someone whose mind is going to naturally dwell in the past. It's going to use the past to project into the future. And there's something humbling about that. And I want to talk a little bit more about it. But the way I want to access it is through this poem. And it's a piece written by Louise Gluck. She was a contemporary poet. She passed away in 2023. She was born in 1943. She was a writer in New York and Jewish, although she says that she wasn't so connected to her Judaism, but I feel like part of being a rabbi is being like, well, I think you were. So, there's a lot of Jewishness, particularly in this poem. It comes from, and I think that there's going to be a link shared for sure in the chat, so you will have access to this poem. It is called Nostos, and it's from her collection. Oh, there we go. Thank you so much, Rachel. From her collection, Meadowlands. And it's actually, the collection is a lot of bases on Greek and Roman myth, but I'll read you the poem and we'll go from there and we'll practice with some of the strands in it and thinking about what she does here with mind. So this poem is called Nostos. There was an apple tree in the yard. This would have been 40 years ago, behind only meadows, drifts of crocus and the damp grass. I stood at that window, late April, spring, flowers in the neighbor's yard. How many times really did the tree flower on my birthday? The exact day, not before, not after. Substitution of the immutable for the shifting, the evolving. Substitution of the image for relentless earth. What do I know of this place? The role of the tree for decades taken by a bonsai, voices rising from tennis courts, fields, smell of the tall grass, new cut, as one expects, of a lyric poet. We look at the world once in childhood. The rest is memory. I'm just going to read the last line again. We look at the world once in childhood. The rest is memory. It's just wow, I just feel like I could stop, but I will say a little bit more and then I'll leave this. But I think what I really love about this poem, and I wish that we were live so we could really talk about it, it's such a rich piece, but it's so specific and ambiguous at once. Like there's a lot of ways into the specificity of this piece. She's talking about her memories of the yard, of the nature surrounding her childhood. And the way she's framing these though in the language of the poem is she's sort of like admitting the limits of her mind and looking at these endless phenomena, the relentless earth. She both knows and does not know the place where she grew up, right? She's introducing a lot of mystery. She asks in the poem, what do I know of this place? The role of the tree for decades taken by a bonsai, voices rising from tennis courts. It's all so clear what she says. Those images are so clear, but the way that we get in there is through our own imaginations. So we get to enter the poem too, but she even calls us out like we are limited because we're pulling from our past experiences to kind of like relate to her past imaginations. And there's just so much subjectivity, and it's very beautiful because it just perfectly names us as human. It's not asking us to be something that we're not. It's like the world is exceeding our minds, but look at how beautiful we can make the world through our mental images. So I feel like she really highlights this subjective experience, especially when she says substitution of the immutable for the shifting, the evolving, substitution of the image for relentless earth. In these lines, I feel like there's something almost divine, like she's referencing the immutable, something changeless, and how we, in order to experience it, substitute in our shifting and evolving experiences of being finite. And so she's really showing us in this very gentle, poetic way that we're so limited by the bounds of what we're able to see, how we capture things in images, and how she's capturing things in the poem, and yet admitting that the earth is relentless in its vastness. So I really feel like this piece is admitting our humanity. And I think that that's something so important for our mindfulness practice, to just accept our mental states as being who we are, Ivrim, people who are passing through finite, certainly not Yadhevave, people of absolute presence. Of course, sometimes we can stumble into that, but those are moments of awe. And it's not something to strive for, to try to be that. It's actually putting ourselves in that poetic posture of awe and like wonder, but not, I need my mind to be present at all times, because it's actually not, that's not our mind. We're named the passing peoples. It's just, there's something very beautiful about poeticizing our limitations. So I want to lead us in a sit. Before we go in, I want to use this last line as some permission, some way of bringing poetry to maybe something that's often frustrating in our mindfulness practice, but that we look at the world once in childhood and the rest is memory. Just to think about that. Maybe it's not true, but there's something poetically true about it. And I wanna welcome us to sit with that. I'll guide us through a bit. So if you are comfortable to close your eyes or look off of the screen into the distance or at something not screen in your house. And we'll just gather ourselves, maybe feeling our gravity on the floor below us or the chair or the sofa or whatever it is we're sitting on, and taking a really deep breath and really taking a moment to notice what it is you're perceiving. The gentle or not gentle sounds around you. The feeling of the air in the house, maybe the feeling of your clothes on your skin. And just noticing how we can be pulled to a present awareness by these phenomenon that we can't capture, but we can experience. So if we really take some deep breaths, become present with the air, feeling it on our skin, there's something very infinite about taking in the relentless air. It's this oxygen that we're actually all sharing across the entire nation and beyond, wherever we're all sitting. And our experience of it is so limited to the little breath drawing in through the nostrils, the limited ways that we feel that air on our skin or otherwise. And maybe there's a little bit of awe accessible in recognizing how being limited is actually a real access point to awe. A real access point to the quality of wonder that oftentimes poetry is the only language for. Sometimes silence is the only language for. So today we can practice with just this non-striving. Like when our minds drift off to the past or future, kind of giving a heartfelt nod to that cycle of nature in us. The mind is the cycle of nature. And just knowing that that is the nature of mind, and there is a way to be in awe of that as well. So we can sit in silence for the next 10 minutes and kind of gently practice with coming in and out of presence. If you want to practice with coming back to the breath or coming back to a certain part of your body. But each time you do, really inviting just that courageous, heartfelt nod of humility. This is mind. This is mind. This is what it is to be a person of Avar, Ivrit, Ivrim. This is my nature. So we can sit together in some quiet. And if you feel any disconnect or like your mind is lost or running, I wonder if there is room to also see those states as cycles of nature, expressions of our humanity. We just have about another 5 minutes. And I wonder if in those 5 minutes we can see if there's even less striving. See if we can really strive even less, maybe soften, release any ambition. Maybe it can take 5 minutes to explore this place in nature that we are. And no matter where your mind has been, can we take a few seconds to cultivate some compassion for wherever our minds have journeyed, whether that's been very present, very past, very future. Bringing some compassion kind of as a message of awe and humility for that process of nature that we get to witness. And drawing in that compassion, we can take some really nice deep breaths, start to really feel our bodies in space again. And we just have a few more seconds in our meditative space. So if there's a breath of savoring, or prayer, or awe, and at your own pace, starting to bring your senses outward, and we can keep our eyes closed or start to open them, and we're just gonna slowly transition out of our sit.
By Genevieve Greinitz, thank you so much for that really profound teaching and deep practice. And we'll seal it as we do each day, making space for grief and all the feelings of those who are in mourning, whether you have a recent loss, whether you're observing a yard site, whether you're someone who joins in the mourner's Kaddish, you're welcome to do so. You can put the name or names of those you're honoring in the chat now or after we recite Kaddish. And if you're not reciting Kaddish, we really encourage you, if you can, to please stay present for a few minutes just to support those who are with your presence and love and support and prayers for comfort. And if you are joining me in the Mourner's Kaddish, please rise in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yit Gadal. Ba'agala v'zman karim
v'imru amen.
Yehi shmei Rabba v'barach v'olam v'yamin Barak Bar Mishmam Yikadar Ba'ela Pircha Sharata Ushbechata V'ran Ba'alma Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya Chaim Israel Seh Shalom B'Rama Hu Yaseh Shalom Ya'u Israel Ya'u Yoshvei Tevel. Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. Want to say thanks and Mazal Tov again to Judith and Ike for on the occasion of your 50th anniversary and 30 plus years of mindfulness. I guess mindfulness is the key ingredient there. Sounds like the couple that meditates together stays together. Judith and Ike, many, many more years in good health and much joy to you and celebrating this milestone. And thanks for inviting us in to celebrate it with you. Thanks for supporting our practice. And thanks to Rachel Huguet for holding our tech space today. As always, we hope you can stay on. You can continue just to sit. If you'd like, turn the sound off on your computer and just use the space to continue with your own practice. Or you can join us for a little conversation about this really profound and rich teaching today and reflection on your experience with the practice. You can put whether it's reflections you'd like to put in the chat or a question. If you write a question, please write question all in caps and I'll try to work your question into the conversation. Genevieve, you're muted, so we just want to make sure you unmute there. There you go. There you go. That was so rich. Which is a word, an adjective I don't really like to use very much, but there was so much wonderful teaching there that I honestly don't even really know where to begin. Um, two things that came up for me while you were teaching, and this popped up again as I was sitting with your guidance was, and I'm always interested in the Jewish framing of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a contemporary phenomenon. We can discuss that, but I'm interested in the ways in which the principles of mindfulness intersect with some fundamental Jewish spiritual principles, for example. And you brought up a couple, just in the in the name, the biblical name for our people, Ivrim or Ivriot, right? And the root of that word, which means passing, crossing or passing over. You said it also means the past. The avar is the past, right? So they're right there. We could spend probably an hour just unpacking that a little bit. And then the Yud He Vav He name for the divine. Um, so there's that. What I got from it also was this idea that mindfulness is a spiritual practice for cultivating humility, and that the poem reflects that, right? You kind of referred to that. I don't think you used that word specifically, but that's, I got that was the message I got was, wow, this world is so big. And even that sense of my breath is so small in relation to the breath of the universe. And there's only so much I can see or perceive. And my understanding of the way you were unpacking the poem is that Louise Gluck there is trying to kind of communicate in a poetic way, kind of the wonder of the limitations of being human and the wonder of being human at the same time. So first of all, I just want to ask you that, if that resonates with where you're going.
Totally. And yeah, thanks for recapping and giving your perspective.
But there's so much more. There's so much more. That's just like
that's really kind. And I also, yes, I think that absolutely. And I think that's something that comes up for me a lot in my, whatever it is, mindful life, psychic life. There's this sense of striving, and I often feel like I am trying to push past the fact of my humanity and to enter into what our tradition says is actually God. And the thing is I think humility is the basis for having awe. Because if we can just realize, I'm not infinite, I'm never going to be, I am a human, but it can have moments of beauty and presence and really feeling present. And that is when we are feeling awe, but not striving. There's not a striving to be that. It's more
right.
a release and an awe.
Yeah. So you brought in striving, and at the end of the set too, you were inviting us to have the last little bit of the set to kind of let go of striving. Can you say a little bit more about that? Because that will come up a lot in our sets, I think, about striving. And what do you mean by that? What is striving, and what does it mean to let it go?
Well, it's a really good question because it's actually really hard. Because I
Yeah.
do feel our mindful practices they are about cultivating mind states,
Mm-hmm.
and about cultivating ourselves out of places of reactivity, and really noticing that there are mental states that they're not where I want to show up in the world. I don't want to show up hateful, and those states might come up. So I think that there's this real tension point between cultivation and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that the striving can melt into and having compassion, because if we're having a sit and we're just frustrated and we're frustrated because our minds are the way that they are, and they're anxious and they're darting around in future possibilities, and jumping around in the past, or they're wherever they are, we don't even know sometimes. Those are places where I find that if we grip and we say, oh my God, like my mind is a mess, like this is so annoying,
Mm-hmm.
that to me feels like a striving to be something I'm not. And
Mm.
the minute I'm like, oh, my mind is something mysterious that I don't understand, it's this process of nature. Like, can I have compassion and a little
Mm.
bit of awe for like the
Wow.
craze of what it is?
Well,
And I,
can you just stop there for a second?
yeah,
That
totally.
was just like that was a gem, I'd say, right there, right?
Thanks. That's
Because
really nice.
I think also it's quite relatable. I think we all relate to we're sitting here, right? And there's all different levels and experiences of meditation, right? So for some people, um, have a real sense of what to do, and others who may just say like, "Oh my, I can't stay present. My mind is all over the place. I'm not meditating. I'm not doing well." But what you're saying, I think, is reframes that, right? Say like, "Wow, look at my mind darting all over the place." Like you're saying, like that is actually can become kind of I don't know, an opportunity for awe.
Right. Like
That's
in awe
amazing,
of, yeah, this is what it is to be human.
right?
And then
And we can't control it.
right. And then there can be compassion, and there can be, you know,
Well, hold on one second there, because there also could be judgment, right? There
absolutely.
could be judgment. So the practice is to notice the judgment and instead to meet it with compassion, because that's where people, including myself, can say, "Oh, I'm flunking meditation today,
Right.
right? I'm a
Yeah,
terrible meditator. Do better, right?" As opposed to, "Oh, this is an opportunity to practice humility and compassion."
totally. And
And
yeah.
yeah, go
And
ahead.
I think that those are the states to cultivate, is compassion. And I have to say that I think I started practicing with compassion like 5 years ago. And
Hmm.
I actually practice with it every day, because I didn't realize how difficult of a practice it was. Um,
Mm.
but and it's really hard, and I can only do it for little bits of time. But I do think that there's something very powerful about practicing with compassion.
Yeah, which is yet another element here. I mean, if we really think about Judaism as a spiritual path of cultivating compassion and love, which for a lot of people is not their experience or not what they learned or not what they think, but it's another aspect of the connection between mindfulness practice and Judaism, I think. Like, so you've brought in so many different qualities here, right? Of awe, humility, compassion, release of striving. Maybe think about that as Shabbat kind of practice. And Kira, very touched by, you've received Kira's message in the chat. Kira says, "I feel today I finally understand what meditation is. Just be." All right. Diane, I would say,
Beautiful.
um, so I want to spend a couple of minutes. We have about 5 minutes. And oh, Elizabeth also adds, when judgment comes up, we can be in awe of the judgment too.
Oh, that's so
Now,
hard. It's so
that's
hard
good.
too. It is so hard. So uncomfortable. I hate that state of being.
Yeah, but it's an interesting because it is a reframing of, oh, I'm being so hard on myself. Wow, that's something. Um, so those last two lines of the poem, um, I was interested also really in hearing you unpack that a little
Yeah.
bit more too. I just want to, here's my way I was understanding. We look at the world once in childhood, the rest is memory. I guess the way I understood that, the way I took it, of course, poetry, it's great. Everybody hears it in their own key, is that in childhood, there's we see things for the first time and it elicits this wonder, right? Um, and in a way, we never can see things the same way after that. Um, and that's what I'm taking as the rest is memory. I don't know. How do you understand? How do you? And I was also thinking, you're someone who works every day with kids,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
who are some of whom you have. I mean, you have young kids and you got middle school kids, quite a range there. And so you've got the like young kids looking at the world with wonder, and then you have middle school kids, who are not necessarily looking through wonder, but knowing, cynical, ironic middle school kids. So I was wondering about how do you understand that end of the poem there?
I've read that line so many times, and I, first of all, I don't know, because it's something that I feel like it's an undoing. That line sort of is like an undoing.
Hmm.
But I feel like today I'm thinking about it as there's this way that we are. I mean, I'm not always, I hate to say this, I'm not always a fan of like modern psychology language that I don't understand very well. But I will say that I do feel like there is a way that when we are that young, we can take the world in and, cry all of a sudden because, oh my gosh, like I'm just upset or I need attention or someone hurt me and I'm crying. And it's just like immediate, everything is like right there. And then we have
Hmm.
all this like conditioning and stuff. And like, for me, I'm not an easy crier. I very rarely cry, which is too bad. I always want to be a better crier. But I do feel like when I was a kid, I probably was. And there's just like, it's not even like a conscious thing, but memory is just all over it's like these layers of experience that are just there all the time. And they come up in our relationships so often. It's like we can't just,
Hmm.
like, it's like a small interaction is like, oh my God, like you just brought up everything for me because you said the word verb or something. You don't know. It's like anything could happen because of all these memories associated with the present moment that my adulthood, and just living has brought. But then again, I think that we can dip into our childlike mind and really, uh, I do want to, I wish we could talk to Louise, because I do think that, I'd like to believe that sometimes we do in fact get right back to that place of like, oh wow, like I remember what it feels like to explore the world and be face to face with the world.
Yeah. It also reminds me a little bit of the Midrash about, about how we know the whole Torah in utero. And then when we're born, we got the angel touches us and we spend the rest of our lives basically trying to remember or come, somehow we know it, but we're remembering it. We're re-accessing it through our lived experiences, which reveals something that we once knew but forgot and come back to. But the other thing about, in terms of the mindfulness practice is just so beautiful that that it is a practice of remembering
Right.
constantly, right? Remember the intention. Come back. Oh, I forgot. Come back. It's really intention, forget, remember, come back, over and over. And I think no the title of the poem too, just to wrap it up here, is Nostos, which I think has to do with coming home, as in nostalgia. And um, so if she frames the whole, if that's so, I think, which is also pretty darn Jewish, about which, because the whole Jewish spiritual ethos is about coming home in some way, and home being always a little bit over the horizon, right? It's the process of coming home. It's not necessarily actually, it's coming home and always being in the process of coming home at the same time.
Mm,
So,
mm.
um, yeah, well, that's, I don't know. What a poem.
What a
This
poem.
was thank you so much for introducing that to me and to us. And it was really, really special session today, Genevieve. Thank you so much. Really
Thank you.
appreciate
Also,
it.
it's so nice to see the Ostrich family. I see you guys over there. But it's nice to see everybody. And thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel. Um, thank you so much to Judith and Ike. Many, many more years. Good to see you. And thank you so much for supporting our practice today. We're grateful to you, and Mazal Tov. All right, everyone. That's a wrap. That's our wrap for 2025. We don't have a special IJS meditation, you know, end of secular year summary, but wonderful to have spent this round with you and to have many more New Year's. And we'll look forward to seeing you in 2026. And we offer you blessings for health and goodness, and we pray for justice and peace in the new year. And we hope to see you on January 2nd. Be well, everyone. Many blessings. Take good care.